Glad to see you're surviving the training and have come back for more. Okay, we've looked at communication and interpersonal skills so far. But once you've determined an issue that needs to be addressed with all those new skills, you must still work within the established system to make change possible. To do that, you need to identify, learn about, and document available resources, learn to network efficiently, and look at how to bring together coalitions around a specific issue and learn your role as a junior health educator. Let's jump right in. As a junior health educator, it's important to know who does what within the community. If, for instance, you are working on a project for the elderly, it would be very helpful to know who provides services targeting this age group and what services they provide. You need to start any project by looking for resources or other groups within your area, as well as state or national organizations who may have an interest in what you're trying to do. Make sure you throw a wide loop to include people or groups that address the issue with an indirect way. For instance, if you're dealing with senior citizens, you wouldn't normally think of including WIC, which is the Women, Infant, and Children's Nutrition Program. But with so many grandparents raising grandchildren these days, this is an appropriate resource. For each resource you identify, it's helpful to document where the agency is located, their phone, fax, and web address, hours of operation, and specific services provided. It's also helpful to make note of any special requirements people may need to qualify for services, such as income limits or citizenship. The last thing you want to do is send someone to an agency that can't help them. It would be frustrating for them and would damage your credibility. When you call or go by to gather the information, it's also helpful to get the name of who you talk to, so that if you need to call again or get more information, you have a personal contact that will know who you are. Once you have gathered all this information, you need to organize it in a manner that you can access at any time. Okay, now let's take a break and let you try out your skills on documenting resources. Pick a topic of interest and locate at least 5 agencies that would be useful as a resource. Gather the information you would need from each organization in a way that you can use later. Now that you're connected, you can use the resources you gathered to help the community to mobilize around a special project or issue. One of the ways you can do this is through the utilization or creation of a coalition. Coalitions are usually members of a community who come together around a common interest, such as a Clean Parks Coalition or a Healthy Schools Coalition. If it appears that a coalition is needed to address a specific issue, then you need to first look to see if something already exists. If not, you can form a new coalition, remembering a few helpful tips. You need to start by writing down who should be involved, how you plan to contact them, and do you already have the resources that could or would help. Make sure the overall mission of the coalition is clear as you recruit members. Remember to be inclusive and invite as many segments of the community as you can. As with other organizations, a coalition needs to get commitment from those involved to be successful. Someone saying they will help is not truly helpful unless they do. You need to set goals, establish ground rules, and set up the organizational structure to address leadership, communication, staffing, and resources. Successful coalitions need to focus on activity and advocacy. It's important to set small steps or intermediate goals to allow for celebrations along the way. This helps keep members engaged and encouraged with what can be a long process. One of the best pieces of advice in regard to building and working in coalitions is to focus on group strengths and skills rather than deficits. When a weakness comes up, focus on looking at what strengths can compensate for that deficit and who knows someone who can help rather than the weakness itself. A coalition can be a great way to address a specific community need. By bringing everyone to the same table, you increase group knowledge while reducing the duplication of services, better utilizing resources, and reducing competition. To see what this looks like in your community, look for existing coalitions that you can become involved in. It will allow you to see how they work and, as a bonus, get connected to local agencies for future projects. Okay, let's see how this might look in a school setting. You're one of several students who are concerned with the amount of obesity in your high school and want to see if you can do anything about it. After talking about it, the group decides the 2 areas they want to target are nutrition and activity. Your group goes to the people who work in the cafeteria to see if food choices can be changed. They tell you that they only prepare the food. The district nutritionist makes all the menu choices. When you call the nutritionist, she tells you that she is restricted by budget issues that would have to be addressed by the superintendent of schools. Others in your group approach the PE coaches to see about ways to possibly increase activity among students. They would love to help, but must have the approval of the principal to assist. The principal thinks it's a great idea, but needs school board buy-in to make it work. At this point, you realize that none of these folks are communicating much about the issue and that to make any changes, all of them need to be involved. Your group decides to form a coalition to look at obesity prevention in your school. You would start by looking around to make sure something similar does not already exist. Then decide what the basic mission of the coalition would be. Maybe something like, decrease obesity within our school through changes in nutrition and activity level. Start your list of who should be at the table for changes to occur. Remember to include people both inside and outside the school system, such as the local health department, the United Way, or maybe local political figures such as city council members. Once you have everyone together, you need to assess what the current situation is at your school. This can possibly be done with data that already exists, or you may need to look at a method of data collection to start the project. You also need to document resources that you have available within your group. For resources not readily available, you can brainstorm other sources. Once you've established the obesity rate, contributing factors, and available resources, you can start to brainstorm solutions. Break down the solutions you come up with into small, obtainable objectives. For instance, as a start, the cafeteria workers and the district nutritionist might agree to post what are the healthier choices on the day's menu. Later, they may be able to reduce the number of less healthy choices available to students. At the same time, the PE department may agree to increase the number of higher intensity activities during PE. Later, they may be willing to hold a teen boot camp after school for those who want to participate. The school board may be willing to hold a Walk Across Texas challenge among the different campuses or classes, while the local chamber of commerce or a local business might provide pedometers and incentives for the challenge. To record the pre- and post-challenge weight measures, the health department might provide the equipment and staff needed. These are just a few possible objectives to address the overall mission of reducing obesity in your school. A successful coalition takes the cooperation of all members in addition to effective leadership and motivation. At the end of this training, you'll be equipped to take on any of the roles in this scenario: leader, worker, researcher, and sometimes cheerleader. As a junior health educator, like a traditional community health worker, you're trained to guide and empower your friends, family, and neighbors to improve their health. We've already looked at the many roles you may play as a junior health educator. You may act as a resource to provide information or support. Your role could be to use your new knowledge and skills to motivate and mobilize the community. Or maybe filling the gaps by providing information to others in one-on-one situations may be your calling. But overall, one of the biggest roles as a junior health educator is serving as a positive role model for those around you. By making healthier choices in your own life, you set an example for those around you to follow. It becomes more difficult to teach someone healthier behavior when you don't follow your own advice, such as talking about better food choices with a supersized soda and a big bag of chips in your hand. I'm not saying you can't have either of these items, but you may want to consider maybe a small soda and a small bag of baked chips instead, for both your health and your credibility. The last piece of the service coordination puzzle is follow-up. Whether you're working with a group or individual, make sure you follow up with them regularly to see how the plan is working. The key here is that you're checking to see if they need help to revise the plan, not to catch them screwing up. For example, if you have been talking to a friend about reducing sodas, check to see how they're doing. If they have cut their consumption, praise and encourage them. Likewise, if they haven't, don't get mad, but instead, talk about why and work through some possible solutions or give them some additional ideas to try. If you're working with a group, you do the same thing. You evaluate where the group is on completing their objectives and timeline and provide the same encouragement or problem solving. Okay, we're moving right along. Just remember, without good coordination, even the simplest problem can quickly become complicated, making it extremely difficult to focus on the truly important issues. This lesson, we have talked about what you need to do to identify, learn about, and document available resources. We looked at how to bring together coalitions around a specific issue and to examine your role as a junior health educator. Looks like we're ready to go on to capacity building skills. Don't forget to keep documenting those resources. Now please take a minute to show us what you've learned. After you successfully completed these questions, you'll be able to move on to the next lesson.